Saudi Cup and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod Mindful Media and Communication with my guest host. If you're watching the video feed on Spotify, YouTube, wherever, you might see me petting my guest host here. Spooky is looking over my laptop right now while I'm recording, listening to the birds outside, and now posing for the camera. Go get the fly or whatever you just saw. So welcome, Saudi Cup, to another episode here for the Funky Pod Mindful Media and Communication. And today we're mean, we're bad. We're talking about the original Gangster, breaking down Chael P. Sonnen. If you're into MMA combat sports, you know who Chael Sonnen is. If not, you're in for a ride. Chael P. Sonnen, Uncle Chael, the original Gangster, something, biggest arms of Westland, whatever that is. I think it's in Oregon where he's from. I'm just messing Uncle Chael, don't be mad. One of the best talkers ever in the game of MMA, could have probably easily moved into wrestling, WWE, and so on. He's that good of a talker. He was that good of a talker when he was a active fighter, and now that he's gotten older, he retired and now is in the content creator side of things, commentating, breaking things down, but mostly putting out YouTube content and offering you advice and selling some weird scam stuff where you can register your hands as lethal weapons or something like that. But other than that, Chael P is a legend, and I figured, why hasn't there been anyone else that came close to Chael when it comes to talking, selling yourself, selling your fights, making the most out of it? So let's look at how Chael P. Sonnen, the original Gangster, the original bad boy, how did he make that work? And, well, we have to look back a little bit, like where did it come from, right? So if you look back in time, way back into time, in the heart of Westland, Oregon, so that's why I was joking earlier, right? There emerged a fighter, not just armed with like a fearsome right, left overhand, no, actually it's more like a wrestling takedowns, to be honest, but with a tongue sharper than Excalibur. And I worked very hard on that intro. So Chael P. Sonnen, the American Gangster, the original bad guy, he realized very early on that battles weren't just won by punches, kicks, and whatnot, but also through the art, and I think it's important, the art of narrative warfare. So the art of war by Chael P. Sonnen is the art of narrative warfare. You gotta engage fans, you gotta engage foes, all of them alike, with tales of valor and, like Chael, like a stash of villainy. Right? Chael wasn't just the good guy that you want to root for. We rooted for him because, we invested, but also because he riled us up. And that's why you wanted to see what's happening. Either you want him to get beat up or you want him to beat others, but you were invested in what he was doing. And one of the theories we can already apply here, looking at Chael, like when he was a fighter, right? When he called out Anderson Silva, like he won a fight, the most famous interview probably ever. Joe Rogan with the mic in his hand, and Chael P's like, Anderson Silva, one of the greatest fighters of all time, right? Many people say he's the greatest of all time, the most talented of all time, maybe. And he's like, Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck. And the crowd goes, woo hoo hoo. And then he doubles down, he's like, Silva, you, me, the rematch, because we fought before. If I win, you lift the division. So then he has to move up or down in weight, right? If you win, I will leave the UFC forever. And it's like something out of WWE, right? It's like a loser leaves promotion kind of thing. And he just brought it into the UFC. Like, what? Insanity. So fantastic talking skills by Chael P. As a fighter already, now as a media person, even better, of course. And so one of the models we can apply is and we had this in one of the episodes before, the ELM, Elaboration, likelihood model. Okay, what does that mean? It means that Chael Sonnen understood early on that persuasion wasn't just about the message itself, but how the message was delivered. Okay, so you need like a blend of like pathos and logos, and with this right blend of pathos and logos, he crafted a persona that wasn't just heard, but you felt something when he was talking, right? So this turned like press conferences into psychological chess matches, if you will. And I mean, never forget with like Tito Ortiz and so on, like classic stuff. If you're not familiar with it, go to YouTube, search for 10 best Chael Sonnen moments or whatever on the mic. It's amazing. It's a masterclass. And that leads me to act number 2 of the podcast today. Like, how did he master not just the talk in the ring, but then also like the digital coliseum? Because to be honest, Chael isn't the youngest anymore. He retired, and he's got a show with DC, right? With Daniel Cormier, former UFC champion, Hall of Famer, 2-division champ, wrestling champion, and so on. So DC is like highly, highly accomplished, similar age, I think, as Chael, maybe Chael even a little bit older. And DC, while he's knowledgeable at what he talks about sometimes, he's not great at the whole media thing, like how to utilize social media. I mean, he calls his YouTube channel Daniel Cormier TV. Like, are we in the 90s? Like, TV? What? So, but Chael, on the other hand, completely understands the digital media circus, whether that be him by himself or the people he works with, his editor or whatnot. Like, maybe he found the right guy to work with, just like Rogan did with Jamie, for example, right? Maybe that's the case, but props to Bisping with his editor. So props to Chael for figuring out or having the right person to help him figure out how to utilize the digital coliseum, if you will. Because at one point, of course, the final bell rings, the echo of the bell fades, and then a fighter has to make a decision. What am I going to do now? And Chael Sonnen, he pivoted into the digital realm like very, very smoothly. And not just as a participant, but as a gladiator over, how Stephen A. Smith calls it, the digital airwaves. And his Arsenal, a podcast, of course, that dissected the fight game with like, at times I'm going to give it to Chael, surgical precision. Like, if he wants to break things down, he can. Very often he doesn't want to. He just goes out because he knows like what people want to hear or what they don't want to hear, and what people click on, what triggers people, and then he just says the wildest stuff. But he's very good at that. And his YouTube channel, of course, has like analytics, but also lots of like anecdotes that blends it very well together. And that all lends itself to like a great social media presence, of course, that keeps the MMA world on its toes. You always see like, did you see what Chael just said? Like, even on serious programs such as the MMA Hour with distinguished journalist Ariel Helwani. It's like, did you see what Chael said? Like, so Chael is always in the mix because he has those wild takes, and sometimes they're very good and they actually come to fruition. Sometimes they're just completely out there, right? And then, I mean, if you follow Chael, you know, like if he starts to give you a take by saying, let me offer you this, then you know it's going to be wild. Or a few years ago, where does Kevin Lee fit into all of that? And it became like a running gag, like a meme in the MMA community for years, now asking where Kevin Lee fits into all of that. Like a Kevin Lee, if you don't know, like a former / current fighter who was on the way to become like the next big thing, and Chael tried to talk him into like the title picture, but then he struggled, got cut, or left the UFC, came back, whatever. But it's like a running gag now to say like, where does Kevin Lee fit into all of that and things like this. So thanks to Chael, we got lots of memes, references, and so on. So it is just fantastic. Also, by the way, even though he never became the champion, which indicates that he must have lost a fight at some point, the official, not the official, but like the story about Chael is that he never lost a round. He never lost a fight, never lost a round, obviously, because he's the American gangster, the original bad guy, which is also just fantastic. Everyone just plays along with it. It's amazing. And this leads me to another theory, because, hey, I'm also going to teach you something. So let me offer you this theory, okay? The media synchronicity theory, MST. Yeah, we love abbreviations in academia, so that's why and it needs to be 3 letters, obviously. So the media synchronicity theory. Okay, this theory. And let me break it down for you. It's a Chael thing to say. So Chael tailors his like communication to the medium strength. Okay, so like you got synchronous tools for like real-time banter, for example, and as like on the air, right? If it's a expert at ESPN, for example, and he chops it up with Brett Akamoto, like the ESPN guy, and things like this. So then he knows exactly. I got 30 seconds to get my take across, so I gotta be like loud and fast, for example, or like then asynchronous platforms like social media, right? Which is no live. I mean, you could have live interaction, but I mean, like you post your video and then you've got like the back and forth, for example, or like Twitter/X, where Chael is active sometimes. I even got a reply once, so thank you, Chael, for that. Where he then dives deeper into the mechanics of MMA and like, let me offer you this. It has like his 10-minute videos, and then people respond to it, share it, and he responds to that, insults some people while doing so. So he understood that different mediums need different forms of interaction, which is fantastic because not everybody understands that, and that's what we call then in the media studies, media synchronicity theory. Asynchronous versus synchronous tools, and depending on what you're using, you're behaving differently, you're sending different kinds of messages, okay? As you might hear the bell for the next round in the background. One thing that's also, I think, very poignant here to look into, and we looked into this theory a few times before, the parasocial interaction theory. And so if you're following the podcast, you know that one. If not, let me explain. One of Chael Sonnen's most uncanny abilities is to turn viewers into like confidants. He's like, hey guys, like here the guys he always calls like in the underground forum, stuff like that. It sounds like I don't know what old people would say, right? It's awesome. And he's like he tries to like build like this community, and thanks to that, we see like a guy in Chael who bridged the gap between like celebrity and audience, because he crafts like this form of camaraderie that transcends the screen. And the secret here is, I think, is just this unyielding authenticity and like a little bit of willingness to like actually peel back the curtain on both like victories, defeats, and like just how the whole MMA game works. Does he always tell the truth? Yes, of course. You know what I'm saying. Does he exaggerate? Yes, of course he exaggerates at times, right? But it's always authentic to him, or at least the persona that he's portraying. So you're like, yep, I believe that's Chael right now, even if it's the persona of the American Gangster, right? So that's fantastic. So this leads then to like a very strong bond with the audience, so that the audience thinks we know Chael. But even if there's like some bad press about Chael out there, everyone is like, that's impossible. I know Chael. We've known Chael forever. He would never do that. And I think most of the times of the things that we heard, it also like turned out that he didn't do those bad things, those alleged bad things, unless it's those from way back when he admitted to doing them. Okay, all right, we navigated that like very smoothly. But parasocial interaction theory means we feel like we know that person very well because the person shares so much with us that we feel like, hey, and I see you every day on YouTube, for example, and you share so many personal, or not even that personal, but he does share personal stuff. Sometimes he has like his kids in the video for like a little bit. He showed like how his son caught a WWE promo on him, actually, which was hilarious. And so you're like, hey man, fantastic! I know this guy. Right? So that's parasocial interaction theory. He doesn't know me, but I think I know him, and that leads to like this strong bond between us. So that's parasocial interaction theory. And let's not overlook that another theory that I really like, the theory of cognitive dissonance. That's one that we see a lot when we analyze media context that resonates, because Sonnen is like, he's ever the contrarian. Let's be honest, right? He's ever the contrarian. He thrives in challenging audience's beliefs, but also like expert beliefs. So if he's on lots of shows with like Daniel Cormier, or he's like a guest on Bisping's podcast maybe, or like he used to be a regular on Helvani's MMA Hour and so on, and he always has contrarian takes to at least something, right? So he's good at weaving those narratives that entertain as much as they enlighten, because first he puts it out and like, what is he on about? And then he's like, let me offer you this, let me explain. And then he breaks it down and you're like, actually I kind of follow that train of thought. Like, as crazy as it sounds, I can follow what he's saying. So he's turning cognitive dissonance, like, into a form of like cognitive delight. You're like, oh, for you go from what the heck to, oh, maybe I get it, maybe he's right. And that's a very, very important skill, or very useful skill to have if you're working in/with the media. So Chael P, American Gangster, original bad guy, I would tip my head if I would have more hair left. So congratulations. That's a great skill to have. And I have to mention like one other theory that I mention a lot, because I think it doesn't get mentioned enough in other breakdowns and when other people talk about media studies, if there are other people that talk about media studies. Because in an age that we are right now, right, where like dissenting voices often retreat in the shadows, like Chael Sonnen and his platform, they are like an arena for debate. It embodies the spiral of silence theory in reverse. Like usually, we as an audience, we fall into the spiral of silence theory, meaning if there's like the sentiment of the majority, even if you don't agree, you're like, they're probably right, or they don't want to hear like my argument that's against it, because it's so many people agreeing with that thing, so I'm just going to be quiet even though I don't agree. It's a spiral of silence. Chael Sonnen doesn't care about the spiral. I think he doesn't even know the spiral of silence, which is good, because he's against it. He's like, no, y'all, yeah, I'm from Texas, y'all say this, I must say something completely different. So by voicing the unvoiced, he didn't just break the silence, he shatters the silence. That he invites with his crazy takes. He does invite discourse with like the gusto of like a seasoned like orator that has a very keen mind, like a strategist. Sometimes you think like, how does he come up with all those things? But when you think about it, sometimes it then feels very strategic. I'm not sure if it's really planned and strategic, but it feels like it. Which, again, props to the American Gangster, because this is not easy. If it just by coincidence, respect. If it's planned, even more respect. And it's here, like in this cacophony of different voices, where Chael Sonnen's legacy, I think, shines brightest. Okay. Not as a silencer of dissent, but as a champion of dialogue. Actually, it's the American Gangster that embraces dialogue, that embraces confrontation. And he's challenging, he's engaging, and always, always super entertaining. And you can't say that of any other combat sports content. Everybody has their agenda. Chael has his agenda, obviously, right? Selling those lethal hand stuff. But usually everyone has like their way of framing things and like making you agree with them. Chael is like, you don't have to agree with me, but let me offer you this. Right? And then shares his sometimes crazy, sometimes just controversial, and sometimes very engaging, thought-provoking takes. And this leads me to like, what's the legacy of the bad guy gonna be like, right? So I'm gonna conclude in a second. But if you look at the Odyssey from through life and times of Chael P. Sonnen, undisputed, undefeated, you find a legacy that's not written with fists, just fists, but mostly fought with words, wit, and like this spirit that you just can't break. But it's also hard to comprehend, like where did he get it from? And so Chael taught us like that the arena of combat is not physical, but also mental. Like where narratives clash, personas are tested, and legends are born. And that might sound exaggerated, but I do think that the bad guy has is a legend and has a huge legacy that he will leave to the combat sports world once he decides to walk away from it. So here's to the American Gangster, the original bad guy, Uncle Chael, undisputed, undefeated, the man who could talk a cat off a fish wagon if you wanted to, who wielded his voice like a warrior wields his sword. I think that's actually, while it sounds cheesy and while I thought about, like, I always think about the intro, I think about the end, and then in between is just whatever happens. While I thought about like this metaphor, I was like, that's going to be cheesy. But it kind of fits because Chael did hurt people just with his words. And I mean, he fed a carrot to a bus, so I mean, ridiculous. So if you look at all the things that Chael did, he reminded us that in the grand narrative of life, it's not just what you say, but how you say it that echoes through eternity. Okay? So that's me talking about Chael P. I mean, no words can do the man justice. It's been 20 minutes of now just praising Chael P. Sonnen for being undefeated, undisputed. Let me know what you think about the original bad guy, the American Gangster. What's his legacy like? How do you enjoy his takes when he offers you things? Did you register your hands as lethal weapons? And most importantly, what's your most liked or most hated Chael P. Sonnen take? Shout out in the comments. Leave some feedback. It would be cool. Rate this episode if you can. Like, share, subscribe, as you know. And most importantly, don't forget to always keep your guard up. Until then, take care, stay safe.